The escape pod crashed into the forest with a thunderous roar, sending birds flying in all directions. Inside the small metal sphere, Zyla pressed her tiny blue hands against her pointed ears, trying to block out the terrible noise. When everything finally went quiet, she slowly opened her large silver eyes and looked around. The pod was broken. Smoke poured from the control panel and sparks flew from damaged wires. The door hung open, letting in strange smells and sounds from this alien world. Zyla's heart pounded in her chest as she realized the truth. She was alone on a planet full of humans. Everyone in the galaxy knew about humans. They were the monsters that parents used to scare children into behaving. "Be good or the humans will eat you," mothers would whisper. Stories spread across star systems about their terrible appetite for other species. They would hunt anything that moved, cook it over fire, and devour it with their sharp teeth. Zyla was only 3 feet tall, with delicate features and skin that sparkled like starlight. Her people, the Vixari, were peaceful plant eaters who lived in harmony with nature. They had never hurt anyone, but that wouldn't matter to humans. To them, she would just be another meal. She grabbed her emergency pack and crept toward the pod's opening. The forest around her was thick with tall trees and green plants she didn't recognize. Strange sounds echoed through the woods. Birds sang melodies she had never heard, and insects buzzed in the undergrowth. Every noise made her jump. Zyla knew she had to find shelter before the humans discovered her crash site. Her small legs carried her deeper into the forest, away from the smoking wreckage. Thorns caught on her simple gray clothing, and roots tried to trip her as she ran. After what felt like hours, she found a hollow tree with a small opening near the base. It was just big enough for someone her size to crawl inside. She squeezed through the gap and found herself in a cozy space lined with soft moss. It would have to do for now. As darkness fell, Zyla huddled in her hiding spot and tried to make sense of her situation. Her family's transport ship had been attacked by space pirates. In the chaos, she had been shoved into an escape pod and launched toward the nearest planet. That planet happened to be Earth, home of the most feared predators in the galaxy. She pulled out a small device from her pack and tried to send a distress signal. The screen flickered weakly before going dark. The crash had damaged it beyond repair. There would be no rescue. She was trapped on this world with creatures that would see her as nothing more than food. The night brought new terrors. Strange howls echoed through the darkness, and glowing eyes seemed to watch her from the shadows. Zyla curled up into a tight ball and tried to sleep, but every sound made her freeze with fear. What if the humans could smell her? What if they were already hunting her? When morning came, hunger forced her from her hiding place. Zyla searched the area and found some berries that looked similar to ones from her homeworld. They tasted bitter, but they would keep her alive. She also found a small stream where she could drink fresh water. For 3 days, she lived like this, hiding during the day and trembling through the night. She grew weaker and more desperate with each passing hour. The berries weren't enough to sustain her, and she didn't dare venture far from her shelter to look for better food. On the 4th morning, everything changed. Zyla was gathering berries near the stream when she heard voices approaching, human voices, deep, loud sounds that made her blood run cold. She dropped her small collection of fruit and ran toward her tree. But it was too late. Heavy footsteps crashed through the undergrowth behind her. "Did you see that?" one voice called out. "Something blue just ran behind that tree." Zyla pressed herself against the inside of the hollow tree, trying to make herself as small as possible. Maybe they would think they had imagined it. Maybe they would go away. "There's definitely something in there," another voice said. "Closer now. Should we check it out?" "Could be an injured animal," the first voice replied. "We should help it if we can." Zyla almost laughed at the cruel joke. Help her? They wanted to help her right into their cooking pot. She closed her eyes and waited for the end. A large hand reached into the hollow and Zyla let out a terrified squeak. The hand froze. "It's okay," a gentle voice said. "We're not going to hurt you. Can you come out? We just want to see if you're injured." The lies sounded so convincing. Humans were clever hunters, she knew. They would say anything to lure their prey into the open, but she had nowhere else to go. The hand was blocking her only escape route. Slowly, trembling with every movement, Zyla crawled toward the opening. She emerged from the tree and found herself facing 2 enormous humans. They towered above her like giants, their faces shadowed against the bright sky. The smaller one, a female with brown hair, knelt down to get closer to Zyla's level. "Hello there," she said softly. "My name is Sarah. What's yours?" Zyla's voice came out as barely a whisper. "Please don't eat me." Both humans looked shocked. The male, who had graying hair and kind eyes, stepped back and raised his hands. Eat you? We would never do that. Are you hurt? Do you need help? Zyla stared at them in confusion. This wasn't how the stories went. Humans were supposed to grab her immediately and start preparing their feast. Instead, they seemed genuinely concerned about her welfare. I know you must be scared, Sarah continued, her voice remaining calm and soothing. But we want to help you. Are you hungry? Thirsty? At the mention of food, Zyla's empty stomach growled loudly. She hadn't had a proper meal in days, and the berries weren't nearly enough. But this had to be a trap. Humans didn't help their food. They cooked it. It's okay to be afraid, the male human said. But you're safe with us. I'm Dr. James Mitchell, and Sarah here is my research partner. We're scientists studying the local wildlife. We never expected to find someone like you. Scientists. Zyla had heard that word before. Some humans studied other species before eating them, learning the best ways to prepare them. Her terror increased. But as she looked into their faces, she saw something she didn't expect. Their eyes held no hunger, no predatory gleam. Instead, she saw curiosity, concern, and something else she couldn't quite identify. Something that looked almost like protectiveness. Maybe, just maybe, not all the stories about humans were true. The escape pod crashed into the forest with a thunderous roar, sending birds flying in all directions. Inside the small metal sphere, Zyla pressed her tiny blue hands against her pointed ears, trying to block out the terrible noise. When everything finally went quiet, she slowly opened her large silver eyes and looked around. The pod was broken. Smoke poured from the control panel and sparks flew from damaged wires. The door hung open, letting in strange smells and sounds from this alien world. Zyla's heart pounded in her chest as she realized the truth. She was alone on a planet full of humans. Everyone in the galaxy knew about humans. They were the monsters that parents used to scare children into behaving. Be good or the humans will eat you, mothers would whisper. Stories spread across star systems about their terrible appetite for other species. They would hunt anything that moved, cook it over fire, and devour it with their sharp teeth. Zyla was only 3 feet tall, with delicate features and skin that sparkled like starlight. Her people, the Vixari, were peaceful plant eaters who lived in harmony with nature. They had never hurt anyone, but that wouldn't matter to humans. To them, she would just be another meal. She grabbed her emergency pack and crept toward the pod's opening. The forest around her was thick with tall trees and green plants she didn't recognize. Strange sounds echoed through the woods. Birds sang melodies she had never heard, and insects buzzed in the undergrowth. Every noise made her jump. Zyla knew she had to find shelter before the humans discovered her crash site. Her small legs carried her deeper into the forest away from the smoking wreckage. Thorns caught on her simple gray clothing, and roots tried to trip her as she ran. After what felt like hours, she found a hollow tree with a small opening near the base. It was just big enough for someone her size to crawl inside. She squeezed through the gap and found herself in a cozy space lined with soft moss. It would have to do for now. As darkness fell, Zyla huddled in her hiding spot and tried to make sense of her situation. Her family's transport ship had been attacked by space pirates. In the chaos, she had been shoved into an escape pod and launched toward the nearest planet. That planet happened to be Earth, home of the most feared predators in the galaxy. She pulled out a small device from her pack and tried to send a distress signal. The screen flickered weakly before going dark. The crash had damaged it beyond repair. There would be no rescue. She was trapped on this world with creatures that would see her as nothing more than food. The night brought new terrors. Strange howls echoed through the darkness, and glowing eyes seemed to watch her from the shadows. Zyla curled up into a tight ball and tried to sleep. But every sound made her freeze with fear. What if the humans could smell her? What if they were already hunting her? When morning came, hunger forced her from her hiding place. Zyla searched the area and found some berries that looked similar to ones from her homeworld. They tasted bitter, but they would keep her alive. She also found a small stream where she could drink fresh water. For 3 days, she lived like this, hiding during the day and trembling through the night. She grew weaker and more desperate with each passing hour. The berries weren't enough to sustain her, and she didn't dare venture far from her shelter to look for better food. On the 4th morning, everything changed. Zyla was gathering berries near the stream when she heard voices approaching, human voices, deep, loud sounds that made her blood run cold. She dropped her small collection of fruit and ran toward her tree. But it was too late. Heavy footsteps crashed through the undergrowth behind her. "Did you see that?" one voice called out. "Something blue just ran behind that tree." Zyla pressed herself against the inside of the hollow tree, trying to make herself as small as possible. Maybe they would think they had imagined it. Maybe they would go away. There's definitely something in there, another voice said. Closer now. Should we check it out? Could be an injured animal, the first voice replied. We should help it if we can. Zyla almost laughed at the cruel joke. Help her? They wanted to help her right into their cooking pot. She closed her eyes and waited for the end. A large hand reached into the hollow and Zyla let out a terrified squeak. The hand froze. It's okay, a gentle voice said. We're not going to hurt you. Can you come out? We just want to see if you're injured. The lies sounded so convincing. Humans were clever hunters, she knew. They would say anything to lure their prey into the open, but she had nowhere else to go. The hand was blocking her only escape route. Slowly, trembling with every movement, Zyla crawled toward the opening. She emerged from the tree and found herself facing two enormous humans. They towered above her like giants, their faces shadowed against the bright sky. The smaller one, a female with brown hair, knelt down to get closer to Zyla's level. Hello there, she said softly. My name is Sarah, what's yours? Zyla's voice came out as barely a whisper. Please don't eat me. Both humans looked shocked. The male, who had graying hair and kind eyes, stepped back and raised his hands. Eat you? We would never do that. Are you hurt? Do you need help? Zyla stared at them in confusion. This wasn't how the stories went. Humans were supposed to grab her immediately and start preparing their feast. Instead, they seemed genuinely concerned about her welfare. I know you must be scared, Sarah continued, her voice remaining calm and soothing. But we want to help you. Are you hungry? Thirsty? At the mention of food, Zyla's empty stomach growled loudly. She hadn't had a proper meal in days and the berries weren't nearly enough. But this had to be a trap. Humans didn't help their food. They cooked it. It's okay to be afraid, the male human said. But you're safe with us. I'm Dr. James Mitchell and Sarah here is my research partner. We're scientists studying the local wildlife. We never expected to find someone like you. Scientists. Zyla had heard that word before. Some humans studied other species before eating them, learning the best ways to prepare them. Her terror increased. But as she looked into their faces, she saw something she didn't expect. Their eyes held no hunger, no predatory gleam. Instead, she saw curiosity, concern, and something else she couldn't quite identify. Something that looked almost like protectiveness. Maybe, just maybe, not all the stories about humans were true. Sarah moved very slowly, like she was approaching a frightened animal. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a wrapped sandwich. Are you hungry? She asked again, unwrapping the food to show Zyla what was inside. It's just vegetables and bread. No meat. Zyla's eyes widened at the sight of the sandwich. It looked nothing like the bloody chunks of flesh she had imagined humans preferred. Green lettuce, red tomatoes, and yellow cheese were layered between two pieces of soft bread. Her stomach growled again, louder this time. How do I know it's not poisoned? Zyla whispered, her voice shaking. Dr. Mitchell smiled gently and took a bite of the sandwich himself. See? It's perfectly safe. He handed it back to Sarah, who broke off a small piece and placed it on the ground between them. Zyla stared at the food for a long moment. Her survival instincts warred with her hunger. The logical part of her mind said this was obviously a trap. But her empty stomach disagreed. She crept forward and grabbed the piece of sandwich, then quickly retreated to a safe distance. The bread was soft and fresh, the vegetables crisp and flavorful. It was the best thing she had tasted in days. Before she knew it, she was creeping forward for more. There we go, Sarah said softly. You must have been so scared and hungry. Where did you come from, little one? Zyla hesitated. Should she tell them the truth? That she was from another world? Would that make them want to capture her for their government? Or would they think she was crazy? I'm not from here, she said finally. My ship crashed in the forest a few days ago. Both scientists exchanged glances. Ship? Dr. Mitchell asked carefully. What kind of ship? A spaceship, Zyla admitted, then immediately regretted it. Now they would know she was truly alien, truly different from them. But instead of alarm or greed, she saw excitement in their faces. Incredible, Sarah breathed. You're really not from Earth, are you? You're from another planet? Zyla nodded reluctantly. I'm Vixari. We live in the Andromeda sector, many light years from here. This is amazing, Dr. Mitchell said, pulling out a small recording device. The first confirmed contact with an extraterrestrial species and she's just a child. I'm not a child. Zyla protested. I'm 47 years old. Sarah laughed, but not unkindly. 47? You look so young. Vixari age differently than humans, Zyla explained. We live for about 300 of your years. By our standards, I'm still considered young, but I'm not a baby. Of course not, Dr. Mitchell agreed quickly. We didn't mean to offend you. This is just all so extraordinary. A real alien visitor. Zyla finished the sandwich and felt much better. Her fear was slowly being replaced by confusion. These humans weren't acting like the monsters from her nightmares. They seemed genuinely interested in her as a person, not as a meal. Why aren't you trying to eat me? She asked bluntly. Sarah looked horrified. Eat you? Zyla, humans don't eat other intelligent beings. That would be wrong on so many levels. But the stories, Zyla began. What stories? Dr. Mitchell asked, leaning forward with interest. Zyla told them about the tales that spread throughout the galaxy about human appetites and cruelty. How parents used humans as scary stories to make children behave. How entire species feared the day humans would discover their worlds. Both scientists looked disturbed by what they heard. Those stories are completely false, Sarah said firmly. Yes, humans eat meat, but only from non-intelligent animals. We have strict moral codes about the treatment of other sentient species. But you're predators, Zyla insisted. You have forward-facing eyes and sharp teeth. Those are the traits of hunters. We evolved as omnivores, Dr. Mitchell explained. We eat both plants and animals, but we don't hunt other sapient beings. In fact, most humans would be horrified by the idea. Zyla studied their faces, looking for signs of deception. She had spent her whole life believing humans were monsters, but these two seemed genuinely kind and concerned for her welfare. What do you plan to do with me? She asked nervously. Sarah and Dr. Mitchell exchanged glances again. What would you like us to do? Sarah asked. You're obviously stranded here. Do you have any way to contact your people? Zyla shook her head sadly. My communication device was damaged in the crash. I have no way to call for help. Then we'll help you, Dr. Mitchell said without hesitation. We can't let you survive alone in the wilderness. You'll help me? Zyla couldn't hide her amazement. But why? What do you gain from it? Because it's the right thing to do, Sarah said simply. You're lost and alone, far from your family. Any decent person would want to help. Zyla felt tears gathering in her large silver eyes. She had been so afraid, so certain that she would die on this strange world. But these humans were offering her kindness instead of cruelty. There's something else you should know, Dr. Mitchell said carefully. We can't just take you back to civilization. If other humans learned about you, it could cause problems. Some people might want to study you, or governments might want to capture you. Then what can we do? Zyla asked. Our research station is isolated, Sarah explained. We're studying the ecosystem here, far from any cities or towns. You could stay with us while we figure out how to help you get home. You would do that for me? A complete stranger? Of course, Dr. Mitchell smiled. That's what friends do, friends. Zyla had never had human friends before. She had never imagined it was even possible. But looking at Sarah and Dr. Mitchell, she felt something she hadn't experienced since being separated from her family. She felt safe. I would like that very much, she said quietly. Sarah reached out her hand slowly, palm up. Would it be okay if I helped you stand? It's a bit of a walk to our station. Zyla looked at the offered hand for a moment, then placed her tiny blue palm against Sarah's much larger one. The human skin was warm and soft, nothing like the cold claws she had imagined. As they walked through the forest together, Zyla marveled at how wrong the stories had been. These humans weren't monsters at all. They were protectors, guardians who had chosen to help a frightened alien child instead of exploiting her. For the first time since her ship had crashed, Zyla began to feel hopeful about her future. Maybe being stranded on Earth wouldn't be the nightmare she had feared. Maybe it would be the beginning of something wonderful. The research station came into view through the trees, a small cluster of buildings surrounded by scientific equipment. It looked welcoming and safe. Nothing like the dark caves or cooking fires she had imagined human dwellings to be. Welcome to your new home, Sarah said gently, squeezing Zyla's small hand reassuringly. Zyla smiled for the first time in days. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for not being monsters. The research station was unlike anything Zyla had expected. Instead of dark dungeons filled with bones and chains, She found clean laboratories filled with plants and scientific instruments. Charts showing local wildlife covered the walls, and computers hummed quietly in the background. "This is where we study the forest ecosystem," Dr. Mitchell explained, leading her through the main building. "We're documenting all the plant and animal species in this area." Zyla examined the charts with growing amazement. The humans weren't just cataloging these creatures to hunt them. They were learning about them, understanding their behavior, and working to protect them. "You study animals without hurting them?" she asked. Sarah nodded. "We use cameras and observation techniques. Sometimes we need to capture animals briefly to tag them or check their health, but we always release them safely." "On my world, we were taught that humans destroy everything they touch," Zyla said softly. "That you consume entire planets and leave nothing behind." Dr. Mitchell looked sad. "I'm afraid some humans have done terrible things in the past. We've made many mistakes with our own planet and each other, but many of us are trying to do better now." Sarah led Zyla to a small room at the back of the station. "This can be your room while you stay with us. It's not much, but it's comfortable." The room contained a single bed, a desk, and a window overlooking the forest. It was simple but clean, and more importantly, it had a lock on the inside of the door. Zyla could secure herself if she felt threatened. "I've never had my own room before," she admitted. "On our ships, families share sleeping spaces." "Well, now you do," Sarah smiled. "And you don't have to worry about anyone bothering you. We respect privacy here." Over the next few days, Zyla began to settle into a routine at the research station. The humans provided her with food that suited her plant-based diet, and they never pressured her to eat anything she didn't want. They gave her space when she needed it and companionship when she felt lonely. Dr. Mitchell spent hours teaching her about Earth's ecosystem. He showed her which plants were safe to eat and which animals to avoid. Sarah taught her basic English words she didn't know, and helped her understand human customs and behavior. "Your species is so different from what I was taught," Zyla told them one evening as they sat around their small dining table. "You're not the monsters from our stories at all." "What kind of stories did you hear?" Sarah asked gently. Zyla told them more details about the galactic perception of humans, how they were seen as a plague that spread from world to world, consuming everything in their path, how parents told children that humans would eat them alive if they wandered too far from home. "That's horrible," Dr. Mitchell said, shaking his head. "No wonder you were so terrified when you first saw us." "The worst part is that some of those stories might not be entirely false," Sarah added thoughtfully. "Humans have done terrible things to other species on Earth. We've driven many animals to extinction through hunting and habitat destruction." "But you're different now?" Zyla asked hopefully. "Many of us are trying to be," Dr. Mitchell replied. "We've learned from our mistakes. That's why Sarah and I became conservation biologists. We want to protect species, not destroy them." As days turned into weeks, Zyla began to see humans in an entirely new light. She watched Sarah gently nurse injured birds back to health. She saw Dr. Mitchell spend hours documenting rare plants to ensure their protection. These weren't the brutal predators from her nightmares. One morning, Zyla made a discovery that changed everything. While exploring the forest with Sarah, she found a clearing where several native animals had gathered. Deer grazed peacefully while rabbits hopped nearby, and colorful birds sang in the trees above. "They're not afraid of you," Zyla observed in amazement. "We've been working in this area for 3 years," Sarah explained. "The animals have learned that we don't hunt them. They know we're safe." Zyla watched a small rabbit hop close to Sarah's feet without any sign of fear. "On my world, we always wondered why prey animals would evolve to be so trusting. Our scientists said it was a fatal flaw that would lead to extinction." "Maybe it's not a flaw," Sarah suggested. "Maybe it's hope. The ability to recognize when a predator chooses not to be one." That afternoon, Zyla asked if she could help with their research. Dr. Mitchell was delighted to have an assistant with such keen observational skills. Her alien perspective allowed her to notice things about Earth's ecosystem that the humans had missed. "Your people must be natural scientists," Dr. Mitchell commented as Zyla carefully recorded data about a rare flower species. "We are," Zyla agreed. "But we study to understand and preserve, never to exploit. That's why the stories about humans frightened us so much. We couldn't imagine a species that studied things only to destroy them better." "That's not what science is supposed to be about," Sarah said firmly. "Real science is about discovery and protection." As Zyla worked alongside the humans, She began to develop a theory about the misunderstanding between species. The galaxy saw only humanity's past mistakes and worst examples. They didn't see people like Sarah and Dr. Mitchell, who had dedicated their lives to protecting other species. One evening, while they were reviewing the day's research, Zyla made an important decision. "I want to send a message to my people," she announced. "Did you figure out how to repair your communication device?" Dr. Mitchell asked excitedly. Zyla shook her head. "No, but you have radio telescopes and communication equipment. If we can boost the signal enough, I might be able to reach a Vixari listening post." Sarah and Dr. Mitchell exchanged glances. "That's a wonderful idea," Sarah said slowly. "But you realize what it might mean? If your people come to rescue you, you'll have to leave Earth." "I know," Zyla said quietly. "But I also know something more important now. The galaxy is wrong about humans. At least wrong about humans like you two." "What do you mean?" Dr. Mitchell asked. Zyla looked at both of them with determination in her large silver eyes. "I mean that when I go home, I'm going to tell everyone the truth about humans. That you're not monsters. That you can be kind, protective, and caring. That you choose to help instead of harm. Do you think they'll believe you?" Sarah asked hopefully. "They'll have to," Zyla replied, "because I'm going to bring proof." She pulled out a small device she had been working on in secret. It was a recording unit she had salvaged from her escape pod and modified with parts from the research station. "I've been documenting everything," she explained. "Your kindness, your research, your protection of other species. When I return to my people, they'll see the truth about humans." Dr. Mitchell wiped tears from his eyes. "You want to be humanity's ambassador to the galaxy?" "I want to be more than that," Zyla said with a smile. "I want to be the bridge that brings our species together. Imagine what we could accomplish if Vixari science worked alongside human determination." Sarah hugged the tiny alien girl gently. "You're going to change everything, aren't you?" Zyla hugged her back, no longer afraid of human contact. "We're going to change everything together." The next few weeks were filled with intense preparation. Dr. Mitchell and Sarah worked tirelessly to help Zyla modify the research station's communication equipment. They combined human engineering with Vixari technology, creating a hybrid system powerful enough to reach across interstellar space. "The signal should be strong enough to reach the nearest Vixari listening post," Zyla explained as she made final adjustments to her salvaged equipment. "But it might take several days for them to respond." While they waited for the technical work to be completed, Zyla continued documenting her experiences with humans. She recorded detailed observations about their behavior, their scientific methods, and most importantly, their capacity for kindness toward other species. "Tell me about your family," Sarah requested one afternoon as they sat in the forest clearing. "What will they think when they learn you've been living with humans?" Zyla's expression grew sad. "They'll be terrified at first. My parents will think I've been brainwashed or tortured into saying positive things about you." "How can we prove that's not true?" Dr. Mitchell asked. "By showing them who you really are," Zyla replied. "Not through words, but through actions. When they come to rescue me, you'll have the chance to demonstrate human character directly." The communication array was finally ready on a clear night when the stars seemed brighter than usual. Zyla powered up her modified equipment and began transmitting a carefully crafted message in the complex harmonic language of her people. "What are you saying?" Sarah asked, listening to the beautiful musical sounds. "I'm identifying myself and requesting immediate rescue," Zyla translated. "But I'm also warning them that I'm with humans and that the humans are not hostile. I'm asking them to approach peacefully." The message repeated for several hours before they received a response. The return signal was brief but clear. "Acknowledged. Rescue ship dispatching. Maintain position. Do not trust the humans," Zyla laughed despite herself. "They think you've forced me to say you're trustworthy." "How long before they arrive?" Dr. Mitchell asked. 3 days, maybe 4, Zyla calculated. Vixari ships are fast, but we're far from their normal patrol routes. Those 3 days passed quickly. Sarah and Dr. Mitchell worked hard to prepare the research station for first contact with an alien species. They organized their research data, prepared presentations about their conservation work, and even practiced basic Vixari greetings that Zyla had taught them. "Remember," Zyla coached them, "Vixari are naturally peaceful, but they'll be extremely suspicious of you at first. Move slowly, keep your hands visible, and don't make any sudden movements." "What about our size?" Sarah asked. "We're much larger than your people." "That will make them more nervous," Zyla admitted. To them, you'll look like giants. But if you stay calm and gentle, they'll see that you're not dangerous. On the morning of the fourth day, a silver ship descended from the clouds and landed in the clearing near the research station. It was beautiful, with flowing lines and crystalline windows that sparkled in the sunlight. Nothing like the rough mechanical spacecraft that humans built. Zyla ran toward the ship as a hatch opened with a soft musical chime. 3 Vixari emerged, all armed with weapons that glowed with soft blue energy. The leader, an older female with intricate patterns on her skin, approached cautiously. "Zyla of the Starwing family," the leader called out in their musical language. "Step away from the humans and come to us immediately." "Commander Lyra," Zyla replied, recognizing her aunt. "I am safe and unharmed. The humans have protected me." "You have been brainwashed," Commander Lyra insisted. "Come away now before they decide to eat you." "They don't eat intelligent beings," Zyla said firmly. "They are herbivores and omnivores, but they have moral codes against consuming other sapient species." Behind her, Sarah and Dr. Mitchell approached slowly, their hands raised and empty. They stopped at a respectful distance and waited. "These are Dr. Sarah Chen and Dr. James Mitchell," Zyla announced in both languages. "They found me injured and afraid, and they helped me recover. They gave me food, shelter, and protection without asking for anything in return." Commander Lyra kept her weapon trained on the humans, while 2 other Vixari moved to flank them. "Humans are predators and deceivers. They will say anything to lower your guard before they attack." "Then why haven't they attacked?" Zyla challenged. "I've been alone with them for weeks. They've had countless opportunities to harm me, but instead they've treated me like family." Dr. Mitchell stepped forward slightly and spoke in careful, practiced Vixari. "Honored Commander, we mean no harm to you or your people. We wish only to return young Zyla safely to her family." The Vixari were stunned to hear their language spoken by a human. Commander Lyra's weapon wavered slightly, but she didn't lower it. "You taught them our sacred tongue?" she asked Zyla accusingly. "I taught them basic words so they could communicate respectfully with you," Zyla replied. "Just as they taught me better English. We learned from each other." Sarah produced a data tablet and held it out carefully. "We have documented proof of Zyla's time with us," she said in slow, simple Vixari. "She was never harmed or threatened." "It could be fabricated," Commander Lyra said, but her voice held less certainty than before. "Then examine it with your own equipment," Zyla suggested. "Your scanners can detect falsified data. You'll see that everything is real and unaltered." While the Vixari commander considered this, one of her subordinates pointed his scanner at the humans. His eyes widened as he read the results. "Commander," he whispered urgently, "these humans show no signs of aggression or deception. Their stress levels are consistent with concern for the young one's safety, not with predatory intent." Commander Lyra looked confused. "That's impossible. Humans are incapable of genuine care for other species." "These humans are," Zyla said firmly. She walked to Sarah and took her hand, showing the Vixari that she felt safe with the human contact. "They chose to be different from what you expect." "Show them your work," Zyla encouraged her human friends. "Show them what you really do here." Dr. Mitchell activated a portable projector and began displaying images of their conservation research. Photos of rescued animals, charts showing species population recovery, and documentation of habitat protection efforts filled the air with light. "This is what we do," he explained in his limited Vixari. "We study to protect, not to destroy." The Vixari stared at the images in amazement. Here was proof that humans could be something other than the monsters from their stories. These particular humans were actively working to preserve life rather than consume it. Commander Lyra slowly lowered her weapon. "This is not what we were taught to expect from your species." "That's because you were taught about our worst examples," Sarah replied gently. "Every species has individuals who do terrible things, but many humans are trying to be better than our past." "Why?" Commander Lyra asked. "What do you gain from protecting other species?" Zyla answered for them. "They gain the same thing we do from our conservation efforts. The satisfaction of knowing they're making the universe a better place. They do it because it's right, not because it benefits them." For the first time since landing, Commander Lyra smiled. It was a small expression, but it transformed her stern features into something warm and hopeful. "Perhaps," she said carefully, "we need to reconsider what we know about humans." "That's all we ask," Dr. Mitchell said with relief. A chance to show you who we really are. The first meeting between species had gone better than anyone had dared to hope. But Zyla knew this was only the beginning. The real work of building understanding between humans and the rest of the galaxy was just starting. The morning of departure arrived with mixed emotions. Zyla packed her few belongings while Sarah and Dr. Mitchell prepared final gifts for her journey home. They had compiled extensive research data about Earth's ecosystems, along with detailed documentation of human conservation efforts. This information could revolutionize how other species understand Earth, Dr. Mitchell explained, handing Zyla a crystalline data storage device modified to work with Vixari technology. But more importantly, it shows what humans are capable of when we choose to protect, rather than destroy. Commander Lyra examined the device with her scanner. This contains terabytes of information. Why are you sharing so much valuable data freely? Because knowledge shared is knowledge multiplied, Sarah replied. If this helps other species develop better conservation methods, then entire ecosystems across the galaxy might benefit. Lieutenant Kess, who had spent the previous evening reviewing human scientific papers, looked amazed. Commander, their research into ecosystem restoration is decades ahead of most galactic standards. This data could help us repair damaged worlds throughout our territory. That's exactly what we hope, Dr. Mitchell said with a smile. Science should serve life, not just the species that discovers it. As they prepared to leave for the Vixari ship, Zyla made a request that surprised everyone. I want to take something else with me, she announced, pulling out a small potted plant. This is a seedling from the tree that sheltered me when I first crashed. I want to plant it on my homeworld as a symbol of the friendship between our species. Commander Lyra looked concerned. Introducing alien plant species to our ecosystem could be dangerous. We've analyzed its biology extensively, Sarah assured her. It's actually very similar to plants native to your world. The genetic compatibility is remarkable. Almost like our worlds were meant to share life forms, Zyla added meaningfully. The walk to the landing site was quiet, each person lost in their own thoughts. When they reached the Vixari ship, Commander Lyra paused before boarding. Dr. Mitchell, Dr. Chen, she said formally, I want you to know that my report to the Galactic Council will include a personal recommendation that humanity be offered full membership status. Both humans looked stunned. Full membership? Sarah gasped. But that's only granted to species that have proven themselves peaceful and beneficial to galactic society. You have proven yourselves to me, Commander Lyra replied. Your treatment of Zyla, your dedication to protecting life, and your willingness to share knowledge freely demonstrate the character we look for in galactic citizens. Dr. Mitchell wiped tears from his eyes. That means more than you could ever know. For centuries, humans have wondered if we were alone in the universe. To learn that we might be welcomed into a galactic community. The decision isn't mine alone, Commander Lyra warned. The Council will debate this thoroughly. But you have powerful advocates now. Ensign Nira stepped forward shyly. I've been studying your conservation techniques. Would it be possible for me to return someday to learn more? You would be welcome anytime, Sarah replied warmly. We could learn as much from you as you could from us. This is how true progress happens, Zyla observed. When species choose to teach each other instead of fearing each other, the time for farewells had come. Zyla hugged both humans tightly, no longer the terrified child who had hidden in a tree hollow weeks before. Thank you for saving my life, she whispered to Sarah. Thank you for saving our souls, Sarah whispered back. You showed us that humanity can be better than our worst fears. Will we see you again? Dr. Mitchell asked. I hope so, Zyla replied. I want to be the first official Vixari ambassador to Earth, and I want to help establish the first joint research station between our species. Commander Lyra smiled at her niece's ambition. You're planning to change the entire galaxy, aren't you? We already started, Zyla said confidently. Every friendship changes the universe a little bit. As the Vixari prepared to board their ship, Lieutenant Kess made a final observation. You know, the stories about humans eating other species aren't completely wrong. Everyone froze. What do you mean? Dr. Mitchell asked nervously. You consume knowledge, Kess explained with a grin. You devour new information and discoveries with an appetite that's almost frightening. But then you share what you've learned with anyone who needs it. Sarah laughed with relief. That's probably the most accurate description of human nature I've ever heard. The Vixari ship powered up with a gentle humming sound that seemed to harmonize with the forest around them. As it lifted off, Zyla appeared at one of the windows, waving goodbye to her human friends. Dr. Mitchell and Sarah stood in the clearing long after the ship had disappeared into the sky. The forest seemed quieter without Zyla's cheerful presence, but it also felt charged with possibility. "Do you think the Galactic Council will accept Commander Lyra's recommendation?" Sarah asked. "I think they'll have to," Dr. Mitchell replied thoughtfully. "Zyla has all the proof she needs that humans can be trusted, and she's not going to let them ignore it. What happens to us if they say yes?" Sarah wondered. "If humanity gets invited to join a galactic civilization, then we get the chance to prove that we deserve it," Dr. Mitchell said with determination. "We get to show the galaxy what humans can accomplish when we work together with other species instead of against them." Sarah picked up a fallen leaf from where Zyla had stood. "She changed everything, didn't she? One frightened little girl hiding in a tree, and now humanity might have a chance to join the galactic community." "She was never just a frightened little girl," Dr. Mitchell corrected gently. "She was hope. Hope that different species can understand each other. Hope that fear can be overcome with kindness. And hope that the universe is big enough for all of us to share." Above them, the stars seemed brighter than usual, no longer distant points of light but potential destinations where friends were waiting. The age of human isolation was ending, and the age of interstellar cooperation was about to begin. All because two scientists chose to help a lost child instead of exploiting her. And that child chose to see the good in humanity instead of believing the worst. The universe was about to become a much more interesting place. 6 months after Zyla's departure, everything changed for humanity. The message arrived on every radio telescope and communication array on Earth simultaneously, transmitted in perfect English, Mandarin, Spanish, and dozens of other human languages. "Greetings to the people of Earth. This is Ambassador Zyla of the Vixari, speaking on behalf of the Galactic Council. Humanity has been unanimously voted into provisional membership in the Galactic Federation. We invite you to send representatives to the Central Station for formal negotiations." Dr. Mitchell and Sarah watched the historic broadcast from their research station, tears streaming down their faces as they listened to their young friend's voice addressing the entire world. "The decision was not made lightly," Zyla continued. "For too long, the galaxy has feared humanity based on incomplete information and ancient prejudices. However, evidence has been presented that proves humans are capable of great compassion, scientific excellence, and interspecies cooperation. We believe humanity is ready to join the galactic community as partners, not conquests." Within hours, every government on Earth was scrambling to establish contact with the Galactic Council. World leaders who had spent their careers focused on terrestrial politics suddenly found themselves preparing for interstellar diplomacy. The research station's communication array, still modified with Zyla's technology, received a private message 3 days later. "Sarah, Dr. Mitchell, this is Zyla. I hope you're watching the news coverage. The council was amazed by the evidence I presented. Commander Lyra's report was so compelling that they voted to fast-track humanity's application. I'm coming back to Earth as the official galactic ambassador, and I'm bringing friends." 2 weeks later, a fleet of ships descended from the clouds above the research station. Not just Vixari vessels, but craft from dozens of different species. The clearing that had once held a single alien ship now hosted the first official interstellar diplomatic mission to Earth. Zyla was the first to emerge, but she wasn't alone. Beings of all shapes and sizes followed her. Crystalline creatures that sparkled in the sunlight. Tall, graceful beings with flowing robes. Small, furry creatures with large eyes. And many others that defied easy description. "Sarah, Dr. Mitchell," Zyla called out, running toward them with her arms spread wide. "I told you we'd change everything." The reunion was joyful but brief. There was work to do. "These are representatives from 12 different species," Zyla explained as she introduced her companions. They all wanted to meet the humans who proved the stories wrong. A tall, elegant being with silver skin stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Theron of the Crystalline Conclave. Our people have been afraid of humans for 3 centuries. Your kindness to young Zyla has given us hope that peaceful coexistence is possible. We brought gifts," announced a small, furry creature with a voice like tinkling bells. technologies that could help heal your planet's damaged ecosystems. Consider them a welcome present to the newest members of the galactic family. Over the following days, the research station became the unofficial center of Earth's first interstellar diplomacy. Sarah and Dr. Mitchell found themselves serving as unofficial ambassadors, sharing their experiences and research with beings from across the galaxy. Your conservation methods could be adapted to restore entire worlds, explained Dr. Vi Rain, a Vixari scientist who had come specifically to study human ecological techniques. There are dozens of planets in our sector that have been damaged by past conflicts. Your approach to ecosystem restoration could help us heal them. We'd be honored to help, Dr. Mitchell replied. That's exactly the kind of cooperation we hoped for. The most surprising visitor was Commander Lyra, who had requested to join the diplomatic mission. Wanted to see how Earth has changed since my report, she explained to Sarah. The Galactic Council was particularly interested in whether humanity would remain peaceful after learning they weren't alone in the universe. What have you observed? Sarah asked. Remarkable restraint, Commander Lyra admitted. Most species respond to first contact with either aggression or desperate attempts to acquire alien technology. Humans have been curious, excited, and welcoming, but not acquisitive or hostile. We're too amazed to be greedy, Dr. Mitchell laughed. Learning that we're part of a galactic community is more valuable than any technology. The formal negotiations took place over several weeks, with representatives from major Earth governments meeting with the Galactic Council via subspace communication. The terms were generous. Humanity would be granted provisional membership for a period of 10 Earth years, during which they would demonstrate their ability to coexist peacefully with other species. What happens after the 10 years? Asked the Secretary General of the United Nations during one negotiation session. Zyla answered with a smile. If humanity proves itself during the probationary period, you'll be granted full membership and access to all galactic technologies and trade networks. Based on what I've seen, I have no doubts about your success. The day the formal treaty was signed marked the beginning of a new era for humanity. Earth's first interstellar embassy was established at the research station, with Sarah and Dr. Mitchell appointed as the first human ambassadors to the Galactic Federation. It's funny, Sarah observed one evening as she and Dr. Mitchell watched alien ships coming and going from their landing site. A few months ago, we were just two conservation biologists studying birds in a forest. Now we're representing humanity to the entire galaxy. And it all started with a frightened little girl hiding in a tree, Dr. Mitchell added. Zyla, who was sitting nearby reviewing diplomatic protocols, looked up with a grin. I wasn't little. I told you I'm 47 years old. You're right, Sarah laughed. It all started with a brave young woman who chose to trust in the possibility of friendship instead of giving in to fear. The changes came rapidly after that. Joint research stations were established on Earth and throughout the galaxy. Human students began attending interstellar universities, while alien scholars came to study at human institutions. Trade agreements brought new technologies to Earth, while human innovations in conservation and sustainability spread to worlds throughout the Federation. The tree where Zyla had first hidden became a memorial garden, planted with species from dozens of different worlds. A small plaque marked the spot where she had emerged to meet her first humans. Here began the friendship between species. Here fear was transformed into hope. Here the universe became a little smaller and a lot more wonderful. Zyla kept her promise to become humanity's first ambassador to her own people. But she also became something more. The bridge between worlds that she had dreamed of being. Her work established the template for peaceful first contact that would be used for generations. Years later, when children from dozens of species learned about the early days of galactic cooperation, they would hear the story of a tiny alien girl who feared being eaten, and the humans who chose to feed her hope instead of hunger. And in research stations throughout the galaxy, scientists of all species would work together to protect and preserve life, following the example set by two human conservationists who proved that the best way to contact an alien species is to care for them. The universe was indeed big enough for everyone to share, and it was more beautiful because they chose to share it together. The age of fear had ended. The age of friendship had begun. And it all started with the simple choice to help instead of harm, to protect instead of exploit, and to see the person behind the alien face. Humanity had finally found its place among the stars, not as conquerors but as gardeners of the galaxy.